The movie begins with a young woman named Yi Sung receiving a stack of files from a police officer named Jang Min Hwan. She is collecting testimonies and evidence for a specific case from this officer, whom she later thanks and calls him Dad. Officer Jang Min Hwan explains the seriousness of the case, emphasizing its challenging nature and advising her to be prepared. The young lady says goodbye and carries the stack of files as she walks out, not just from a police station but from a prison. It's snowing, and she observes a yellow balloon flying in the sky, only to be caught by the prison barbed wire. She smiles at it because this yellow balloon caught in the barbed wire symbolizes something meaningful and special to her, which we will later see and understand in the film. Early in the movie, we also learn that Yi Sung is a lawyer. To build her case, she assembles a group of old friends who have turned into false fortune tellers and a church pastor, and they are all set to testify as witnesses in her case. The following day, they all meet in the court for the trial, Yi Sung as a lawyer and the 5 men as witnesses. From their conversation, we get to know that they are all ex-prisoners because they are nervous and awkward in where they are sitting because they are more used to standing in front of the judge where the accused are. In the hearing, the police officer from earlier also arrives, and they greet each other in a way that we know they also knew each other from the past. They all get seated, and the hearing for the reinvestigation case of the accused Yong-Gu begins. The prosecutor first tells the court that there is no more need for the reinvestigation because it has been proven in the past that the accused is guilty. Yi Sung, the lawyer, defends the accused with the argument that the so-called evidence and confirmed testimonies are the whole mistake of this trial and it must be looked back. She also tells the court that the current prosecutor wasn't the one in charge of the case in the past, and his evidence is based on fraudulent data made up by detectives long ago. The prosecutor poses the same question of whether the lawyer, Yi Sung, is the same one assigned to the case in the past. She replies, saying no, she wasn't, but she tells the court that she was definitely present during the trial of this case. Then, Yi Sung shares her version of the story to the court, detailing what truly happened, and we are transported back to the past where everything started. It's back in 1997. A 6-year-old Yi Sung and her father, Yong-Gu, live a simple, happy life. With Yong making an honest living, working as a parking lot attendant at the supermarket, and earning a humble amount of money that's enough to sustain their needs. Yong is a 40-year-old man who has a developmental disability. Even though he doesn't have the intelligence of an adult man in general, Yong is a good, devoted, loving single parent to little Yi Sung. The pretty and smart daughter, Yi Sung, also adores her father, and her young intelligence easily fill in for what her father lacks. They take good care of each other and look out for one another. They stop by a shop every day to sing and dance along to Sailor Moon's theme song outside the store and look at a yellow Sailor Moon backpack that Yong hopes to buy for his daughter before her first day of elementary school. Yi Sung is a big fan of Sailor Moon and wants a Sailor Moon backpack so bad that they sometimes visit the shop twice a day just to check if they are still available. After dancing, Yi Sung, with a sad face, noticed that it's down to the last backpack, but her father assures her that they will finally buy it the following day since it's payday. However, in that moment of hope, they see the last yellow Sailor Moon backpack being sold, bought by the young daughter of the police commissioner. Yong rushes in the store to grab the backpack. They beg the police commissioner not to buy the bag because Yi Sung wants it badly, and they've been waiting patiently for this backpack for days. Because of Yong's strange behavior due to his mental disorder, the police commissioner gets annoyed and angry. He starts assaulting Yong, slapping him repeatedly and kicks him out of the store. After the incident, the two return home without the bag, slightly battered, but in high spirits. The next day, while walking with her mom to the car, the commissioner's daughter, Ji Young, who bought the yellow Sailor Moon backpack, spots Yong at the grocery store parking lot during his lunch break. Yong, counting his hard-earned salary and happy with the thought of being finally able to buy his daughter the Sailor Moon backpack, he is approached by the commissioner's daughter and tells him that she knows another store that sells the same backpack. Because of his immeasurable happiness, Yong starts following the little girl, Ji Young, to a traditional outdoor market by running a little bit on a cold, snowy day. Moments later, a woman passing by discovers Yong in an alley, hunched over the child's dead body. The girl's pants open, Yong on top of her, a blood-stained brick beside them. It was a scene enough to send anyone to prison. And with the commissioner's wild grief and powerful influence, that is exactly what happens. Everyone is in an uproar. There are so many reporters, yet in all this commotion, all Lee Yong can do is worry about his daughter, Yi Sung, who is home by herself. He tells the police that he needs to go home because Yi Sung is waiting, and she will be scared. He seems to be not understanding his current situation, and his only concern is his daughter. He is punched and kicked by the policeman. Here is where we see how the justice system is flawed and biased because of people with power who can manipulate it. We are also showed here how the officials took advantage of Lee Yong's disability to their advantage by manipulating his love for Yi Sung, promising that they will let him go to his daughter if he signs the confession charge. Morning came and Yi Sung is still waiting for her father. It was a rainy day, and it was the day for spot inspection where Lee Yong will reenact at the scene of the said crime to show what he did the day the girl died. The detectives are expediting the investigation process. They want to give conclusive report immediately since the father of the girl that died is the police commissioner. Talk about politics pulling the strings of justice. The detectives continue to use the mentally handicap's love for his daughter to make him admit and paint a cruel picture to the viewers of what happened on that day. Yi Sung is also there, amidst the people gathered around the crime scene. She chases after her father in the rain, as he is taken away by the officials. Lee Yong is brought to prison. The chief officer of this prison is the same police officer we saw at the start of the film, who the grown-up Yi Sung is calling dad after he gave her a pile of files. Upon their first meeting, Lee Yong runs to the telephone because he wants to call his daughter, but the chief officer hits him with the phone. He is mad at Lee Yong because of his crime of kidnapping, murder, and rape on a child. We later learn that the chief officer also lost his child the same way the police commissioner lost his daughter. Lee Yong is tossed into a high-security cell, titled Room 7, with an assortment of criminals, awaiting a trial that will most certainly sentence him to death. Lee Yong shares a prison cell with 5 other inmates named So Yang Ho, Gangman Biom, Shinbong, Shik, Choi Chun Ho, and Old Man Seo. And if you notice, these are the 5 men Yi Sung was gathering to be witnesses. On Lee Yong's first day, he gets beaten again, this time by his cellmates after they had learned about Lee Yong's alleged disgusting crime. And while Lee Yong is imprisoned, Yi Sung is placed in an orphanage. The smart and loving child even left a note for her father to see if he ever comes back home. One day, Lee Yong saves the life of his cellmate, So Yang Ho, from being stabbed by a rival prison gang leader. Lee Yong uses himself as a shield to save his cellmate. Touched by this, Yang Ho and his crew offers to help Lee Yong in any way they can to return the favor. Lee Yong tells them that he only wants to see his daughter, Yi Sung. The 5 inmates then plan to make a miracle in Cell 7 happen. When there was a religious service where Yi Sung, who joined the choir from her orphanage and was singing that day. Lee Yong's 5 cell friends kidnap her from the church choir, and they smuggle her using a food trolley. Man Bohm brought a box of bread large enough to put Yi Sung inside and pretend to be carrying bread to share. They manage to smuggle Yi Sung in a box into the cell, and father and daughter reunite. After they had spent some time together, the Cell 7 crew fails to return Yi Sung back to the church choir, and the church bus leaving Yi Sung behind. Left with no choice but to keep her in their cell, Cell 7 gets a new inmate for the next 2 nights. During her stay in the prison cell, Yi Sung did not only make his father happy, but she also brought love, hope, and laughter to his father's cellmates. Yi Sung was the miracle in Cell 7. 2 days later, the detention center held another religious event, and Lee Yong's friends try to return Yi Sung. But this also fails because it turns out that the event was for Buddhism. Yi Sung returns and stays longer in the cell, and both father and daughter are happier to be with each other again. This also makes other prisoners feel strange. How can a father like Lee Yong, who has so much love for his little daughter, commit such a heinous crime? It must be a misunderstanding. The days were very happy until finally Yi Sung was caught red-handed by Chief Warden Zhang Minhuan, who was known to be very fierce, resulting to Lee Yong's detention in a dark dungeon, and Yi Sung is returned to the orphanage. News about Yi Sung's stay was heard by other prisoners. The same rival gang leader that tried to kill So Yang Ho felt like it was unfair that others get to see people they love, so he set fire to his cell and threatened to burn himself if he was not allowed to meet his father. The atmosphere became chaotic, and the prisoners were asked to leave the cells because the fire was getting bigger. Li Yong, who was tied up and detained in a dark dungeon, is set free to run as well. Chief Warden Jiang Minhuan tries to get the prisoner who set the prison on fire from his cell, but he loses consciousness, and it's Li Yong who saw the chief warden fainting. He cries hysterically and asks anyone to help him, but no one seems to care, and he has to save him alone. Long story short, Jiang Minhuan wakes up in a hospital. The doctor tells him that the one who helped him was Li Yong, a prisoner who was accused of molesting and killing a child. And then the doctor questioned the chief warden about whether this man, who was crying hysterically for him to be saved, was really a cruel killer. The doctor's words made Jiang Minhuan doubt the accusation, and he began to question if he was really a kidnapper and a murderer. With the help of her teacher, Yi-sung was able to visit her father. He was very happy to see his daughter, and other officers started having sympathy for him and his daughter, including Chief Warden Jiang Minhuan. Just by listening to how the two missed each other and how happy they are to be together, you can't help but feel pity. Similarly, with the officer who also does not want to end their happy time, even when the visitation time is already over. But when he saw the chief looking, he had no choice but to end it. It is very sad, and the chief warden feels the same way. Later, we see him in his office, and we get to know that he too had a child about the same age as Yi-sung. We are not oriented on what exactly happened to his child that led him to become a cold person. But it seems that his son's death is the reason why he is very sensitive to Li Yong's case of murdering a child. He observes Li Yong at the prison yard as he looks very sad, missing his daughter, Yi-sung. Chief Warden receives the news that Yi-sung has been hospitalized. Yi-sung hasn't been eating because she is very depressed with her father's situation. The chief goes to the hospital to see her, and he also learns that the orphanage is planning to send her to another province. Yi-sung begs the chief warden, saying she doesn't want to go far away because, if that happens, she won't be able to see her father again. She also asks the chief warden if he could consider arresting her too and placing her in a prison cell alongside her father. Feeling sorry for the girl, the chief warden manages to prevent Yi-sung from leaving by adopting her, and he lets Yi-sung visit her father's prison cell again in a box as a surprise. Li Yong thanked him for what he did, but the chief warden still remained cold towards him. Yi-sung starts visiting Cell 7 and the crew daily, and with her presence, the cell atmosphere becomes very cheerful and happy. Yi-sung, who is smart, tries to teach So Yang-ho to read and write. Initially, So Yang-ho refused, but Yi-sung's persuasion made him melt and want to study. She also smuggles a phone for one of the cellmates so he can call his wife and hear the voice of his newborn baby. Meanwhile, the chief warden has started to investigate the case of Li Yong and has discovered that Yong-Gu is actually innocent after digging into his records and finding out that he was forced to sign a fabricated sworn statement. His cellmates also believe that Li Yong is innocent, so they start analyzing what really happened on that day of the incident, since Li Yong's trial is near. And it is a very critical one because this is the trial where his final verdict will be given. Li Yong's Cell 7 inmates come to a conclusion of what actually happened was an accident. During that cold day when some parts of the streets were slippery, while running, the commissioner's daughter slipped on an icy part of the street where the water was frozen due to the cold weather. In the same manner, Li Yong slipped and fell before her. The girl died because she slipped on ice, and she wasn't able to support her body with her arms when she fell down because of the Sailor Moon backpack. This is the reason why she broke the back of her head, leading to her death. And the brick that fell on her, causing a scar on her forehead, resulted from her slipping. In an attempt to hold onto a rope, she inadvertently pulled on a brick tied above her, which fell as she was descending. The rape case Li Yong is accused of is not rape, because when the witness saw them, Li Yong was actually applying cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, to revive the girl. He unzipped her pants for better blood circulation and was blowing air to her mouth. He learned CPR because of his work as a parking attendant. The chief warden even pays a visit to the police commissioner, the father of the girl who died, to tell him that Li Yong is innocent of this crime, and Li Yong's case should be reinvestigated correctly. But the commissioner is blinded by his anger over the loss of his daughter, and shows that he doesn't care as long as someone pays for his daughter's death. And Lee Yong is a perfect fit. In cell number 7, they are practicing what Yong-Gu should say in the court. They gave him his statement to memorize, ensuring that he would be able to explain himself clearly during the trial. Regardless of their activities, whether jogging in the morning, eating, in the toilet, or before sleeping, they are practicing for the trial. All the prisoners even prepared a petition for Lee Yong's trial. However, the national lawyer is corrupt, and he just wants Lee Yong to admit to the crime because the commissioner is the father of the girl that died. The day before the trial, Lee Yong is summoned by his lawyer, and they meet privately. Instead of defending, the lawyer intimidates Lee Yong into confessing, and the chief warden tries to give the lawyer the petition of the other prisoners, but he rejects them, saying they don't work and they are a waste of time. When the day of the final trial comes, Lee Yong is more than prepared to defend himself and tell the court what really happened on that day of the incident. But while waiting for the start of the trial, the commissioner visits the room where Lee Yong is being held. Lee Yong is repeatedly slapped and threatened by the commissioner himself, who declares that if Lee Yong does not confess to the crime, he will subject his daughter, Yi Sung, to the same treatment that happened to his own daughter. Overwhelmed with fear due to his deep love for his daughter, Lee Yong pleads guilty to the killing of the commissioner's daughter, and he continuously apologizes and asks for help for his child, Yi Sung. The courtroom becomes chaotic, and the national lawyer does nothing while all this is happening. The chief warden is shouting at him to do something. This is a beautiful scene where the past and the present are overlapping. Yi Sung fully remembers how the trial went years ago, and it is as if the past is being relived in the present. It is a depiction of how Yi Sung was feeling that time of the trial, how she wanted to rage at the lawyer who did nothing, how she wanted to defend her father, and how she wanted to comfort her father. But at that time, she was just as helpless as her father was. If only she was also the lawyer back then. The verdict of the death sentence is given, and in her heart, Yi Sung embraces her father. Now, as a lawyer, she stands there to clean her father's name, to clear him from the false accusations, and to overturn the death sentence, erasing the tarnish from his memory. We are taken back to the past. After the trial, Yi Sung, now living with the chief and his wife, visits her father. She excitedly shares the news that she will be starting piano lessons soon and promises to play it for him later. And when it's time to go, we witness a heartwarming routine, their special way of saying goodbye. They do this in the beginning of the movie as well, in the morning when Lee Yong leaves for work on that fateful day of the little girl's passing, where Yi Sung stays behind, watching her father as he walks away and she counts up to 3. And then, with joy, her father would turn back, and they'd exchange waves, dance, and make funny faces. It's a beautiful testament to their unique and loving relationship. Christmas is approaching, and there are many prisoners who will be given Christmas pardon. But we get to hear the terrible news. Lee Yong is scheduled for his death sentence soon. What makes it even more heart-wrenching is that his execution is set for the 23rd of December, which is also his little daughter's birthday. The chief warden asks Yi Sung's teacher for permission to perhaps let Yi Sung spend more time in the prison with her father. He tells her that there is limited time for Yi Sung to see her father now. Meanwhile, the cellmates express their dissatisfaction with the situation, finding it unfair and unreasonable. Inspired by Yi Sung's drawing on their cell wall, that of a hot air balloon flying from a castle, they hatch a great escape plan with the help of other prisoners. Together, they collaborate to save Yi Sung's father, creating a makeshift hot air balloon based on the wall drawing. On the day when the children's choir performs for the prisoners, they arrange for Lee Yong and Yi Sung to ride the hot air balloon. Upon releasing the rope, all the prisoners block the policemen from capturing the balloon, while the chief warden watches with joy, possibly hoping for the success of the great escape. The father and daughter happily wave goodbye, thinking that amidst the chaos on the ground, the prisoners and guards are just dancing. However, the rope gets caught in the barbed wire, and the hot air balloon stops flying away, just like how the yellow balloon got caught in the beginning of the movie and adult Yi Sung was smiling at it. Now, we understand the symbolism of the yellow balloon and why Yi Sung was smiling. Amidst the beautiful sunset of that day, the father and daughter gaze into the distant future. Lee Yong urges his daughter to never forget this day and the moment with her father as they continue to enjoy the sunset. This very scene is what was depicted by the yellow balloon that Yi-sung saw at the start of the movie, showing that she never forgot that day with her father. On the day of Yi-sung's birthday and Lee Young's death sentence, both coinciding on the same day, the prisoners of Cell 7 come together to celebrate Yi-sung's birthday, presenting her with heartfelt gifts. Lee Young finally got his daughter the yellow Sailor Moon backpack, surprising his daughter with a long-awaited gift. Unaware that this will be the last day she sees her father, Yi-sung expresses her gratitude for the birthday presents, and respectfully she starts bowing to Lee Young, thanking her father for the gift of birth. As emotions run high, everyone in the cell struggles to hold back tears. Encouraged by his cellmates, Lee Young is urged to respond, and he expresses his thanks to Yi-sung for being born and being his daughter. A heartfelt hug follows. In a poignant gesture, the cellmates write farewell messages on Lee Young's back shirt, marking the bittersweet moments of their shared time together. After the birthday and farewell meal, as they make their way out, Lee Young, aware of what is about to unfold, starts bowing and expresses gratitude to his cellmates, thanking them repeatedly. Other prisoners sadly watch as the father and daughter savor the last few minutes passing by their prison cells. The time to say goodbye arrives, and Lee Young informs his daughter that he will soon be going to a better place. Yi-sung reassures him, saying she will be fine, she will excel in school, and she will come to visit him. She wishes her father a Merry Christmas, marking the beginning of the most heart-wrenching scene. Both are reluctant to part ways, continuously saying goodbye to each other. Yi-sung keeps her eyes fixed on her father as he is escorted to the location where the death sentence will be carried out. Before turning away, where he almost no longer sees his daughter, he dances and makes funny faces, a gesture supposed to occur after she has counted up to 3. In front of him lies a desolate and frightening place, filled with apprehension about what is to come. Overwhelmed by fear, Lee Young collapses. Expecting the usual routine, Yi-sung begins counting to 3. After 2 rounds of counting, with her father not appearing, she senses that something is wrong. Distressed, she starts crying and calling out for her father. Suddenly, Lee Young rushes back to his daughter, and they hug each other, through the bars separating them. Both father and daughter are in tears, with Lee Young begging to be saved, desperately seeking help from anyone around. It's a profoundly sad moment, and unfortunately, there is nothing anyone can do to assist him. The cries for help from Lee Young and his daughter echo through the prison, leaving the other prisoners shattered and feeling helpless. The scene then shifts back to the present. During the lawyer's final defense for the accused Lee Yong-Gu, the father whom she deeply loved, Yi-sung, expresses forgiveness for her father despite the false accusations. It reflects the deep love and understanding she holds for her angelic father. The court, along with its jury, acquitted Lee Yong-Gu and found him innocent after the reinvestigation. Tears of joy stream down Yi-sung's face as she gazes at her father's picture. The scene then returns to the beginning of the film, depicting Yi-sung observing the yellow balloon stuck in the barbed wire. Suddenly, she hears her father and her younger self calling her name from the hot air balloon. The balloon's rope is freed from the wires and flying away, with her father shouting, "I love you" to her. In response, she reciprocates with "I love you" to her father. The hot air balloon flying far away in the sky symbolizes Yi-sung finally letting go of her father, and her father happily releasing his grip on his daughter. Now free from the false accusation, and with Yi-sung clearing her father's name, justice prevails, fulfilling their long-awaited desire. It all began with the yellow Sailor Moon backpack, and today she stands as a warrior of justice, ironically, in a tale where justice was once denied. This film is a melodramatic comedy, and that's why I call it the funniest and saddest movie of all time. You'll find yourself laughing as much as you'll be shedding tears. It's a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least. Overall, it's a fantastic film. There are 3 more adaptations of Miracle in Cell 7, but I must say none of them surpasses the original from 2013. For those who haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it with friends and family. Just be sure to have tissues on hand. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next one.